If you look up the page for biology on Wikipedia, like we all do when we're bored, then you'll find it starts with a positively unambiguous phrase. Biology is the scientific study of life. And that makes sense. Biology, life logic, the study of things that are alive. But looking into the field of synthetic biology, that definition begins to break down. The example of xenobots, living robots, encapsulates this very nicely. To make a xenobot, researchers mold cultured cells into a shape dictated by evolutionary AIs. Cauterize them, mold them, let them rip. They move in a way that kind of looks alive, but I think we need to break this down a bit more. First, we have the evolutionary algorithm AIs, pretty much a fancy name for computer trial and error. Computers take a large number of random mixes of 3D heart and skin cells, models how these different cells function, simulates them doing a certain task, and then grades them based on how well they did it. They then kill all the low-scoring ones, taking them out of the simulation, and repopulate a new generation based on the high-scoring ones, with small variations. This mirrors the way in which natural selection works, in which organisms compete to pass on their genes to the next generation based on how good they are at keeping them alive. When you repeat this process over hundreds of times, you eventually are left with structures which are rather brilliant at their intended purpose. Turning these structures into a reality is an entirely different discussion. The capacity to manufacture these xenobots directly using machinery just doesn't exist yet, so researchers are forced to make them by hand. They mold cultured skin cells into shapes dictated by the computer using microforceps and electrocauterizers to shape and cut away tissue when necessary. They use heart cells as organic motors and skin tissue cells as connective tissue. Even in their crude, handmade mashed potato approximate forms of what the computer intended, these xenobots are scarily good at their jobs. On top of that, the xenobots exhibited behaviors that the scientists couldn't have predicted. Namely, the xenobots were able to reproduce, scooping up organic detritus from around them like a molecular Pac-Man and assembling new copies of themselves, even though they weren't designed to. While not enough is known about this mechanism of replication to say much more about this behavior, this goes deep to the heart of the conundrum which lies in xenobots. Are they alive? Xenobots satisfy 5 out of the 7 requirements for a being to be deemed alive. Scarily high for something which is essentially man-made. Indeed, what about the bigger picture? When the cells, the building blocks of us, are reduced down to mere bots, what does that say about us? What do we have that they don't? Complexity? Divine intervention? A soul? It's not for me to say. I don't have an answer, and nobody else does. But to me, until we scientifically prove the existence of a soul, or coldly dissect down life to the point where there no longer exists a hole for a soul to hide in, I don't think we'll ever know. Until then, it might be life, but not as we know it. Thank you for your time.